understanding as African children of Muthi is that we come from it because we were birthed by the tree Ma. The Muthi that is mainly used by healers and by African people is sourced from trees and mainly from the roots of trees. So when we use Muthi, we are feeding our spirits and realigning ourselves and also healing ourselves. So there's also like an interdependent relationship between people and Muthi. We can't live without it because it's the source of who we are. So based on that, you will then understand how important it is for us to eat Muthi, not only when we are sick, but as just a way to align ourselves constantly and to heal ourselves, especially against foreign ailments, foreign attacks, whether they are spiritual, physical, or otherwise. When we speak of Muthi as a people, as African people particularly, we're speaking about ourselves. We are speaking about who we are, what centers us, and what gives us life. So Muthi essentially is what we are, who we are, and also our spiritual selves. So with the understanding of all of that, there's then a particular approach that we would have towards Muthi, towards trees, and then how we therefore source it. Our ancestors understood something about time and seasons that is lost on us. So we are only allowed to source Muthi at specific times of the year and not all year round. So you'll find that people now don't understand that and they don't know it, they haven't heard of it. But Muthi is only supposed to be sourced at a particular time of the year, and that would be in June and July. That is a time when you handle the sourcing of Muthi, harvesting, and all of that. Because it's a time when the world is quiet. During our winter months, there's a great quietness that descends because of the absence of so much sun that helps Muthi become a little bit less aggressive towards us. And that is why it is only during those times when the sun is quiet that you should source it. Only then, so you're given 2 months in a year to have all the Muthi that you need all year round. Those are the only months, as per our understanding. Anything beyond that is taboo with Muthi, especially with root Muthis and large tree Muthis. I'm not talking about your rosemaries and I'm talking about Muthi, trees, us, who we are. So during the winter months, well, those 2 particular winter months, the people who source Muthi are supposed to go through particular rituals that make them pure in order for them to be able to then go and source the Muthi. People purge, people fast, and people cleanse before they approach the trees to ask the trees to give them that which they need so that they are able to heal people, heal themselves, and heal us. And it's very, very important that we understand that it's not everybody that can go and dig Muthi. It's not everyone. You might be a healer, you might be a what. It's not everybody who's allowed to, spiritually. So there are different types of healers. There are healers that their task is only to source Muthi. And there are healers that are able to heal and can source Muthi. But it's not all healers across the scope, who can go to certain spaces and then source the Muthi to give to other healers. And I mean, in ancient times, it was very different from now because the source of the Muthi would then go to the healers and they would have a barter and exchange system where then I have Muthi for you, here it is, you will heal my home, you will heal my this. Or else there are some healers that can go and do it, but it's not everybody, and we must understand that. Because even when you are at initiation school, if you feel a very, very strong inclination that you can't do it or shouldn't do it, it's a resonance of the spirit, and the spirit is saying something, that you are not one of the people or one of the healers that can go out and source muti. And most importantly, it's also a very, very deeply spiritual thing, because we know us as an African children are guided by spirit, and we should move by spirit. So when you are a muti digger or whatever, yes, you are a person who's supposed at all times, especially during the first 6 months of the year when you're going to be sourcing the muti. Uyazila, you can't just go out there and do it. But we have found that over time that is lost, that science is lost. And that's why sometimes muti is not as effective as it should be, because the source was wrong. Or the person who went to source it was not the right person to have done it.
The harvesting of muti during June and July.
Sourcing
of it. Are there at any point certain mutis that you can source outside of that period?
Most definitely. So the big trees is what I'm referring to now, like your tabatsindi, maramba pikwa, your mpesus. Those are the trees that are not sourced outside. So how you differentiate about what can be sourced and what can't be sourced outside of a particular time? During June and July is when we source the roots.
Okay.
The roots of all mutis is only sourced during that time. You can source herbs throughout the year, but the large muti trees, no, you can't. It's only during June and July. So if you ever encounter someone in November saying, I've got fresh muramba pikwa or fresh mpesu, you must know that it will not work. It will not facilitate the healing, because that is not the time to have that particular root of a tree.
So aside from the cosmic being still, what do you think those big trees are trying to tell us that they need to be sourced during the times of winter?
During that time of winter, they have no children. They are bare. Do you understand? So that's why it's the only time. So in our understanding of it, because they have nothing, they have no fresh life, no life, so to speak, they allow you to take a little bit of themselves. So thereafter, it's not permissible, because after then comes Mutlakule, which is August. And during that period of August, you are not allowed to source any type of muti whatsoever for any reason, because that's when the spirits awaken in preparation for the spring equinox. So all these things are interrelated with regards to how we then source our muti, how we then get our plants, and all of that. So if you are going to a lake or a river, you can get water all year round. The rivers are generous and ever-giving, and the oceans are generous and ever-giving. It's a life-year cycle. So with that source of nature, you must know, if I go to a river, I go to the ocean, any time is tea time. I can source my muti anytime during all year round. It's only in the forests and then in the hills that we can't take away when there's nothing to take. So when there's less to give, you shouldn't take from nature. When you are in initiation school, it's important that every initiate knows what it feels like to source muti. That's always been the standard. And it's a right standard. But because of knowledge dilution over time, we have lost a lot of our knowledge systems because we are too busy doing other things instead of the stuff that we are really supposed to be doing. So it's just really knowledge dilution, and in some instances, the people who know don't speak. So our knowledge is really, really quite lost. So there are a few people who still have it and who can impart it to others, because big tree mutis and sourcing mutis at rivers and forests and lakes and oceans, you apply the same principles. But with your shrubs that can heal everyone, anybody can source them. Because back in time, everybody used to have the know-how of how to heal their family and themselves. And it was only when they needed to heal the family that they would go out and consult a traditional healer who would then give them muti. Because there's a difference between large trees, your smaller tree, your shrubs, and then how you treat them, you know, because I know that mothers and younger gentlemen are the ones that generally source shrubs. The older men would be the one who would source stuff from the river, and the older ladies would source from rivers and from forests. So with trees, the large trees, specific people only can source them. Shrubs and little plants, your mothers should have the know-how of how to do it, and she would tell her daughters and her children that if your child is this and this and that, this is how you treat it. And then there's certain debris that you find in very clean rivers, that green stuff, that's sourced by old women only. They're the ones who are allowed to take it because they're pure. They don't engage in sexual activity anymore. And they are custodians of families, so they can source that because that's for healing children mainly. And with the trees around and the plants around your rivers and lakes, specific people only can source them. But when you are in initiation school, you should have the know-how of how to attain everything. And that's why you go out there and you do it. You know, it's not, that's not wrong at all. But once you are in it, you understand that I cannot necessarily source everything for myself. I must go to the plant healers who can source it for me and give it to me. The danger with the commercialization of muti is that, number one, you don't know where it's sourced. You don't know how it's sourced and who sourced it. You know, and sometimes, even no matter what your best intentions are, whether you use the muti or not, it will not work because it wasn't sourced by the right person, despite all your best intentions. And I think it's important also because you must remember that when you are epithelial, it's probably one of the most purest periods of your life. You're pure, your spirit is pure, wagaba, uyazilela, you know. So you can go and approach plants and dig, whether you're a plant specialist or not, because you're in the process of learning, and that's allowed. And why do those people zila or why vachidilela before they approach muti is because muti is sacred. Muti is our lives. It is the source. It is the beginning of creation. So when you approach the creator, you don't approach him like you'd approach me, for instance. You know that you are going into a sacred space, you know, and you are going to meet the one. And I know maybe I get overexcited when I speak about trees, but it's because it's the source of who we are, and in my understanding, those are our creators, you know. It's a continuum over time that all these trees are us. And that is why, before you approach muti, because you're going to heal people with it as well, you must be as pure as possible in the human plane.